You guys know I've done videos on energy before, and it's very important. So what I'm going to cover today is the inner energy that can't be measured, but you have an ability in yourself to find the path and measure it for yourself. May sound confusing, but here goes. It's Monday the 5th of February 2024, and it's probably around sort of 4 o'clock, quarter past in the afternoon, so it is getting a bit dark here. But yeah, what I've covered before, energy transfer, as in when we let someone else torment us, because we are sort of becoming the victim, if you know what I mean. I've covered that before in a video called Energy Transfer, which is about 30 minutes long, that I did in the Arizona desert. And basically it was the concept that with our energy, when we become a victim, we are opening up a pathway to the victor, the person who's actually taking control of our emotions at that time. And it goes a lot. It'd be a good one for you to look back on, because it goes a little bit into abuse cycles, and how even 30, 40 years after you've suffered any type of abuse, that you can switch that off. And even if it's your husband beat you up, or when you were a kid, your parents hit you or abuse you in any way, and it can go back into that side of things and show you how, when you've still got that pathway open, there's something that other person feels, the energy, the energy is there, the thought and the power is being given over to them as you become victims. And this is why I'm not a great fan of the way that a lot of people go about things in today's world, because I just see them as playing victims, and therefore taking down their own psychic state into something that is non-creative, because your creative powers have been passed over into someone else. And yeah, it was basically, to sum the old video up, it was basically saying that if you were abused, and when you think about that abuse, you get that sort of down feeling, and you feel, which is natural, by the way. I'm not saying that that's not natural, it shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying that at some point or other, you have to transcend those feelings into power, turn them back into power. And what you'll find is that other person on the other end now isn't draining off of you and making you age prematurely, or do anything that anything else that's detrimental to your health. Now suddenly you see them fading away. And trust me, it works. If you've ever done that energy transfer and you've cut it off, and you've managed to cut off those streams of energy by taking away the power, by no longer playing the victim, then you will stop getting these ailments that you get, and you will find that they will completely fall apart. I mean, I've had it. I get scared to go into what's happened with me in recent years in terms of the people I've seen. But let's just say that people who've attacked me with things and accusations and stuff like that, I now see walking around with Zimmers at a very young age, like 50s. There's no age to have a Zimmer frame. I've seen people with cancers like you'd never believe, and I'm not saying that everybody that suffers from cancer is, obviously it works both ways, doesn't it, right? When you play the victim, you can end up suffering from that, which is what a lot of us do wrong in this community. But then also, when you're the other end of that, when that person switches off that energy flow to you, because you've taken so much, they're now getting it back. And the life forces keep, you can make them change hands, if you get what I mean. So even though those cancers exist on both ends of the scale, as in the victim and the victor, the victor, because of what he's done and because of the way he did it, and he did it for no reason. If you manage to switch off that energy flow, you will watch them just disintegrate. And another person that I seen that attacked me ended up with open wounds. I mean, I'm talking like gushing wounds on the face and stuff. It just is a horrific when you think about it, but that's not what I want to happen to them. I don't want them to attack me. All I want them to do is just leave me alone. And because I shut off the energy source to them, because I no longer felt like I wanted to, which is another stupid like mindset, is that you feel like you want to help everybody. Absolutely crazy, as you all know from when COVID began. You can't help everybody. You have to be very, very selective. And now you know who people are. You'll be a fool to help the people who would see you in a camp somewhere because you haven't done certain things, or if you or they would see you locked up for life, whatever. Those people need to be completely eradicated from your life. I've just done a video just before this on I'll probably name it like M-phase cell division, something like that. The concept that the Earth is splitting into two, and it's a natural cycle, but these people have picked the other bit. Don't get tied up with them, just leave them be. Cut the energy streams off. Stop feeding them by being a victim, that's really important. Yeah, so going back into the energy forces, we all have to survive. There's an inner energy. So people can say things that make you just, your shoulders drop and you just want to sit down and give up. People can also say things that make you want to stand up and be proud. But you're in control of that energy source too, because you can choose who you let to have that power and give that respect to, in order to have that power over your emotions and your responses. I've seen people pull out of illnesses, as in like, I mean, people do pull out them miraculously as well, having death sentences basically, but also there's people who pull out of like standard illnesses, like they're really ill with the bug and they're worn out and everything else, and they're just worn down. Their immune system's worn down, everything's worn down inside them. But then something will happen. They'll find out some news, or someone will do something really pleasant, or somebody will turn up with their life they haven't seen for 30 years. And you can see that switch go back on, and the energy source is back, and they're sharing, even though they may be very ill, this person, they'll see someone they haven't seen for 30 years who they absolutely loved, and it's just a chance meeting, and you will see them come back to life, and their face will be glowing, and the conversations will be flowing. And that's the exact energy force I'm talking about there. It doesn't come from eating food or drinking sugar or necessarily swimming in an ice bath or anything like that. This is the sort of energy force that comes from yourself, from your self-confidence in who you are. And you as in, if you want to bring it on for yourself rather than waiting for others to do it. Because one of the biggest mistakes that we do with these energy transfers is we make the mistake of waiting for others to maybe do something to show their appreciation for the sacrifices we made for them, whether it be our children or family members or just friends, or as a builder, my customer. Obviously, I want them to be happy, but there has to be a stage where you do something and let go of whether or not it will be approved of by the people that you're doing it for. No attachments goes back to another video I made on true gifts, where I said, when you give a gift, you should never attach to the fact that someone would ever do anything for you in exchange. There should be no attach. If something's a true gift and you're giving someone a really true gift from the heart, then there's no attachment. There's no emotional attachment. There's no like, well, why aren't you thanking me? There's no, well, you need to, now I've done that for you, you need to let me borrow whatever off of them, There's no reason to do it that's got a motive. It just is. Someone walked in my house Monday today, isn't it? Yeah. Someone walked in my house yesterday and said, oh, I love that mirror. I said, take it. Take it. It's an antique mirror. Take it. Have it. And it's not that, I'm not particularly, if I was attached to it, I would keep it, obviously. But that's a gift. They really like it. It's theirs now. Is that there's an energy in them that's calling that piece, and they want it, and they can have it, because that'll bring them more joy than it's bringing me now. I've had it. I've had the energy. So anyway, going on to the aspects of humans and then human interaction, there are people who feed off others, and those vampires, the ones who walk into a room and the state of the room just comes down. That's because so many people in that room have kept their pathways open to that person by showing them some kind of care and compassion, when what you really should do is go switch it off, like you do with all these people. You've had to do it. You've had to do it as you're looking into this video. You've had to switch off to certain people after 2020 that you're no longer compatible. You can't be. You can't even be. You haven't even had an argument. You just can't be in the same room, and it's and you haven't necessarily had an argument, a disagreement, or anything, but you just can't. They're just not the right energy for you anymore. You can't be around them, and this takes me on to the energy forces and how, like I was saying earlier, you see someone who looks a bit ill and a bit sort of trodden down by life, and there's loads of people. It's so sad. Loads of people walk around like that. I did for a while. And you see them, you just want to pull your car over and give them a big hug. Nowadays that wouldn't be allowed, but probably be seen as a bit weird. But you just want to pull a car over, give them a big, or chat to them. You just know, you can see them walking on the street. They've got a ton of weight on their shoulders and they need someone to talk to. But these people, you see them come back to life, like I say, after they meet someone that they haven't seen for 30 years who reminds them of the good old days or their childhood, or they've got something in common that they can share in their life story. But there's people who walk into the room who drain the room. They're the people that we give undue respect to, and we should no longer let our happiness be decided by them in any way whatsoever. There are some people who walk into the room and bring it down because they're going through a tough time, but it's not them. It's not who they are, and you're willing to give over a bit of your psychological energy by sitting down at a table and listening to what they have to say, supporting them, giving them encouragement, comments, nice comments, to bring their energy back up. And what you got to remember is that this isn't necessarily you giving over your energy. There's a sense of you can switch that off to a degree. It's more so that you are speaking the words, the spellings, that they need to hear in order to draw from the universal energy. A bit like walking in the woods. There's an energy of walking in the woods that creates like it's like something in humans becomes alive when you walk into the woods. You can feel everything around you. For the first, my daughter puts it down to the fact, and she's dead right, is everybody's equal in the woods. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're from. It doesn't matter whether you're a multi-millionaire or you're just walking along naked, albeit it needs to be warm. You are an equal in the woods. You're not upstaged by anybody. So there's a certain air of relaxation. Everything's like the same. It's all just greenery and it's relaxing. It's natural. And yeah, so there's a feeling you get when you re-energize yourself, and that's how you know that you're on our tribe, if you know what I mean, is the fact that you can walk down by that waterfall, you can stand at the ocean's edge and watch those waves rolling in on the sand, or smashing up against the rocks. And that's an energy transfer that you're not connecting with any other human there. You're connecting with the water itself, which from Dr. Masuro Emoto, which I've mentioned before as well. That on an energetic level, he proved that we can change the structure, the molecular structure of water with our mind. So, we know we're connected, right? So if they're connected, we're connected to that, that's connected to us. So the more that you see the natural world around you and you see the beauty of it, the more likely you are to be on this journey with what I consider to be the 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 splitting energetically of two into two separate realities, two separate planets on the actual sense of the word. And you know, when we need to be opening up that energy is a funny thing, because while we got the energy vampires, we've also got people who energize off of each other, as in they build each other up. There's no one feeding off anybody. We are just in the same room together, like the guy, you know, or the woman who hasn't seen a friend for 30 years. You're both bound to be alive and alert in that moment. You're calling in energy that isn't from your body necessarily, it's from somewhere else. And as we know, our thoughts, you know, any of us that are not, you know, autistic scientists who need to, you know, prove everything on a mathematical piece of paper in order for it to exist, even though we're looking around at things we can never prove. Even though we're not like that. We are the type of people who look around at the natural world with a state of, you know, wonder that we feed off of these things around us. And once you open that mind up like that, and you open yourself up to the thoughts of that, that's when you can feel the energy start to flow. And the more open you are to that side of things, because there's some people, and you'll notice it, social media has been a great tool, a fantastic tool, especially on our own friends list or whatever, and people commenting across the board. You can see the different types of energies and how they feed, because everybody feeds, right? So you've got your empathic type who become like a sponge to other people's worries, hence the good die young. The ones who are always trying to help everybody all the time and open to trying to help everybody all the time are the ones who become like a sponge of the earth. So all those negative energies from all the people around them that naturally draw to them, because they feed off these empathic types, right? Which is me to a degree, not anymore, not since 2020, hence what I was saying earlier. But they feed off you and feed off you until you are like an actual sponge, and you eventually degrade, you go down back into the earth, you just rot away, and all your cells die, and you've got nothing to feed off around you. No one's treating you good. What you've attracted around you now is all the people everybody else has given up on, and you're the last person they got. So they're only coming to you all the time, and suddenly you've all got someone in your life that, if you're an empath, you've all got someone in your life that when they just feed off you, they just feel it's the most comfortable form of food that they can get, and they come visit you all the time, and you just don't want them to visit you anymore. These are the sort of relationships you got to cut off, because they will end up, well, you'll end up doing yourself in terms of, you know, the cancers and all the other stuff. So you see all these people dying of horrific things, and you think, that's terrible. They're the most lovely person. Why can't it happen to that asshole I know from down the road who just don't give a shit about anybody or anybody's emotions or feelings? And it's not that you want to be that asshole and live long, trust me, but you also don't want to be the person who's never really experienced life for themselves. They're always trying to help others continuously, so much so that your life becomes short, and nobody remembers you apart from the fact of saying that you were a lovely person. You need to be somewhere in the middle where you create boundaries. That's another video I'll be doing coming up soon. You create boundaries where only certain people get to feed off you, because that's what they're doing, right? Or get to share your energy, the ones you feel natural around. Yeah, it's you know, we need to, some people, going back to the social media comments, some people come on and they'll just comment to, I don't know, whatever you're saying, they're just going to say something to upset it, to upset the flow of energy that's going on between everybody, and they'll just throw something out there, like a wild comment that can mean two things at the same time, you know. It's sort of your passive aggressive types, but it's the types that if you have a go, you say, whoa, I didn't mean it like that. But then if you don't have a go and you go all nice, they come out with another patronizing comment, and you think, they're leaving themselves a bit open there. They're just toying with me there. They're taking advantage, you know. But you can't really quite say anything. I got these people in my life, but or they were in my life. hence boundaries. And they yeah, they got double meanings that you can never quite pin them down. Just get them gone. Get them gone. They got to be gone out of your life. And you all know, as soon as you look at a picture of them, it brings a sense of like dread over you almost, or just a feeling of like, just your energy zapped as soon as you look at the picture of them, you know. Get rid of them. Get rid of them straight away. And then there's the other types that come onto your feed to tell you, you know, thank you so much, inspire you, or just enjoy that moment with you. Maybe take your mind in different places that you never thought you would ever go. And those are lovely people, you know. There's a lot of us that just, we get tormented into creating these boundaries, but it's something that has to be done, because these energy, the energy gets passed in funny sorts of ways. You know, some people get energy out of doing things that that risk their life, you know. Other people get, and all right, you can say there's chemical releases going on there too, but I'm talking more so about the energy that goes on after the chemical releases are gone, and when they think back on what they've done. You see what I mean? Like, you can feed, when you start, I'll give a for instance. A lot of us has got children, or we're going through relationships, and we got children that are meeting new partners and going through relationships. You know full well, if you're over 50 and you've been through a few relationships, or you've had some long-term ones, you know full well that a lot of your relationship itself feeds off the fact that in your early days, when you were young and fit and more able, or in your early days of your relationship, not necessarily when you were young, just the early days of your relationship, you built memories together that were so out there and sporadic and inspirational, doing the things you've always dreamed of doing, or whatever, going the places you've always dreamed of going, just being in the moment, that you build up an energy that when you, in 30 years time, when you look back on that, when you first got together, you're still feeding off that same energy. You're still sharing those stories, because something was created in that moment that was quite magical. And that's an energy force, and that's exactly what I'm on about. You may have done it at the time to be sporadic and get some chemical releases or whatever, but now, 30 years on, you're feeding off that to keep your relationship and your love for each other alive. Not just that, but it's part of the relationship. You know, when you talk about those times 30 years ago and the funny things that went on, and some of the things that you thought were funny at the time, or you thought were very traumatic or horrible at the time, can sometimes come back and feed you massively in older age. Your opinions on them, and when the trauma goes or whatever, your actual opinions on the event itself changes so much that you actually become very energized by what went on back then. You know, you become a different person altogether. And that would go into another video that I want to do on I do want to do a video on Anhedonia, because it's a very complex subject, but I feel like I've got it knitted down a bit now. But that goes into that. You know, the three phases of energy. Do you know what? We got a time, haven't we? Sod it. I'll go into it now. So, with Anhedonia, there's 3 phases to it. And I'm going to put this quite quick because we're at the end of a video now and you've already been patient enough. There's the energy that you feel when you get excited for an upcoming event. Like, I would say, like packing a suitcase like a month before you're going away on holiday, just because you're so excited for the holiday and you want to buy those little things like your charger adapter and your swimsuit, or you know, certain oils or whatever you love as your little treats when you're on holiday, and you stick them in the suitcase. So that's the preemptive sort of energy that you draw from an experience, right? Then you've got the experience itself. So when you talk about the experience itself, that's when you actually live it. Like, you go to a concert and someone you've always wanted to see sing is singing, and their voice, they're doing it naturally. There's no like It's not just, they're not miming or anything. They're doing the real deal. This is the real thing. Sporadic things have happened. You're living in the moment, and you're stood in that concert, and you're absolutely amazed at what's going on, and you're feeding off the energy of that. So you may experience all three of these energies, by the way, or just two or one, but you will always experience something. And the most important one of all, the one that feeds you the that is important for you to get out of a lull of depression or being self-defeated, and very extremely unmotivated to do new things, and the most important one of all is the third energy power that you get from an experience. So you've got your packing up your suitcase before you go on holiday, like a month before. So you're feeding off the energy of the pre-packing and all your special bits. Then you've got your actual experience, like being at a concert or on holiday, you could say, when you're actually experiencing that itself in the moment, and you're feeding off the energy force of that. And then you've got number 3, which is the actual most vital for people who are very unmotivated to do anything or have any new experiences, because they've had so much trauma. They don't want any new trauma, so they don't go anywhere. They just sit down on their sofa and they don't find anything exciting anymore. Anhedonia is the thought that you have nothing that makes you motivated anymore. And there's a lot of that around because of the separation of families, boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands and wives, and basically the demoting of you as a human being into you're not needed for anything. There's no purpose. There's no purpose for your life, which is a lot of that about at the moment. So anyway, I digress. The third one is the energy, and this is a big one, the energy that you feed off, which I was saying about just now, which led into this, of the memory of something that wasn't looked forward to at the time. You didn't enjoy it when you experienced it. And perhaps it was even traumatic. Perhaps the lead up to it was traumatic. Perhaps the experience of it was traumatic. But the energy force that you feel when you come out of it, maybe just after you've experienced whatever you've done, or maybe in 30 years' time. So that would be the one, the energy force where you feed from the energy of an experience. When someone, the best way I would explain that one, and I've done a lot of thinking on this, when you went somewhere with somebody and you didn't, and it was maybe your grandparents or your mum and dad or whatever, depending on how old you are, and you had this memory, but at the time you didn't look forward to doing it. You went out of your way to do it and you experienced it, but you didn't enjoy it. But now, 30 years later, now they've passed on and they're dead. You look back on that memory that you shared together on the seafront, digging sand as a child, or maybe as a, going to a zoo or on a holiday with them or something like that. Or maybe you went on a day trip in a coach you didn't want to be in, but you ended up somewhere and it sort of took your whole day up at the time. But now you look back, walking around and your grandparents buying you an ice cream or something like that, or your partner at the time who's now passed, doing something with you that you both didn't feel like doing, and you never had the money to do, the finances, you never had the energy to do, but you went on and did it anyway. Now they've passed and your partner's like, there's something else now, and you're there with this memory of what you shared with them, and you're feeding off that energy. You can feel the love and the inner core of what you did that day. But at the time, you were just in the moment, like unmotivated. You didn't necessarily want to do it. A bit like when you go to a family party, and we've all had those family parties, especially if you're my age. It was always parties when we were young, big family gatherings, and you don't necessarily want to go, and there's a lot of hassle, and then you're invited and you say, all right, and then you force yourself to go out the door, even with down the pub with the mates or whatever it may be. And then you go out and then you come home, and then the next day you just feel amazing that you went. Giving a talk, for instance, I feel like nervous before I give a talk. I've been invited on some very big events this year to be a speaker. And I feel nervous about it. I got no excitement in myself. I'm just like, oh my God, this is a lot of responsibility. that I owe to these event organizers. They're putting a lot of effort and time into this. And then I'll talk up on stage and I will feel absolutely scared shitless. And then there's the moment afterwards when you finish speaking and people come up to you and start talking to you about the concepts you've given on that stage, and that feeling of like, oh my God, like it worked. You know, I've helped people, I've done whatever, I'm getting more information, or I go home and I think, oh, I just achieved something there, you know, that I was really nervous of doing. So yeah, there's those three phases. So to go through them one final time, you got phase one, where you're packing your suitcase a month before you go on holiday, and it's giving you all the energy in the world. And you can experience all three of these as a energy source, or you can experience, but the most important one is obviously the third one, because that gets you off your ass to do things. Then you've got the actual present moment, like being on the holiday, enjoying it, or on a concert, enjoying the stage. Then you've got the third one, where you've got a memory of doing something with your dad or your mum particularly, or your grandparents, and you look back with absolute fondness, where it was nothing to you at the time, and you maybe didn't even feel enthusiastic to do it. And the reason why number three, I always put so much emphasis on number three is the only one that's going to get you off that sofa when you've got no motivation left, when you're suffering real severe with anhedonia, and you've got no motivation to get up to do anything, because nobody has shown you the respect that you think you deserve. You've got nothing left to show for what you've done in your life, because you've lost it because of probably like the 2020 thing or whatever, and you got no energy. There's just nothing left for you that you feel, and but you get up and do something anyway. You go to that party, or you go to meet that old friend, or because there's a chance that if you go to that party, or you go away to that holiday, because sometimes even holidays can be draining, that there's always that chance that in 20 years time you'll look back and feed off that event like you're supposed to, you know. And that's the one that needs to get you up. And I know plenty of people who've done this with fathers who've passed on, sons have gone away on fishing trips with fathers, or things like that, and then at the time they were like, oh, I'm a teenager, I don't want to sit on a boat, I don't even want to go away, I don't want to even think about going away with my dad, you know. And then all of a sudden they, you know, 20 years after their dad's passed, they look back and they think, I'm so glad I sat on that boat that day having a conversation with my dad and cracking it in a can of beer. And this is exactly what I'm on about. To get yourself out of that lull that you're in, you need to force yourself, because there's always that chance of the energy transfer in the future. See you later.